Hey, loves. Um, Welcome to this little tour video. Inside of Freak School, if you join us, you'll see Freak School Wisdoms and then Freak School Tools. And there'll be a separate video going through Freak School Tools if you are curious about what's inside of that specifically. But inside of Wisdoms, you'll see four tiles here specifying the content. So trauma, kink, and somatic healing, which you probably have already watched the masterclass for that. Sex magic, a decolonized approach, intuitive vetting and boundaries that nourish you, and restorative repair and alchemical approach. And I'd like to, instead of going through all of the logistics, because most of you probably know how to navigate tiles, I want to just tell you about why I made these, how I made them, because if you've been around these parts for any amount of time, you know that things are by design and things are created intentionally. So, trauma, kink, and somatic healing is reconciling this feeling inside of us that we can't have sacred regard for some of the most taboo or misrepresented or misunderstood um, expressions of sexuality. And I made this because sexuality was being so misrepresented in spiritual or conscious spaces. And it was actually doing a lot of harm, not only to me, but to like the people around me. I couldn't be in a lot of spaces. And as a native New Yorker, I'm a big like, yeah, I'm out. I'm out. But a lot of people don't. And they end up getting really harmed in the process of sticking around and hoping that eventually they figure it out. The tricky thing about sexuality is that it is already misrepresented in this world. So when you get spoon-fed further misrepresentations or alternative misrepresentations, it's actually very difficult to discern, right? And I was noticing a lot of hierarchical or puritanical ideology seeping its way into these very conscious, quote unquote, spiritual spaces that delineated between high vibe sex and low vibe sex, higher order fucking and lower order fucking. And I didn't subscribe to that. It wasn't part of my personal experience. It wasn't part of the experience that I was witnessing with my partners or my clients. And um, it was really important for me to shift the narrative around the dark erotic, around making love to our shadows and doing it in these delicious and raw and ecstatic and sometimes really annihilating scenes and ways. So you've probably already watched the masterclass and you probably caught a little bit of my vibe. Part two is the discussions, the curiosities, and the inquiries that were brought forward from the live studio audience. And if you if you noticed, it's filmed in New York City, and I'm an 80s, born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, which was the raise in popularity of the Jerry Springer era, right? And if you remember, Jerry Springer would say like filmed in front of a live studio audience. And that's the energy that I wanted to bring. Not that everyone was gonna like punch each other in the face, but that anything could happen. I didn't want it to be this pristine recording in front of y'all. I didn't want to have the opportunity to go back and edit and revise. I wanted for whatever was going to come up in this moment to be allowed to come up. And it was my way also of infusing playing in the mess. I didn't know what questions were going to be asked. I didn't know what discussions were going to be had. And that's true of all four. These were filmed in a live studio audience in Brooklyn at a studio called Alchemia Studios, connected with Crossroads Cafe. Really poetic names for the kinds of terrain we're exploring here. Then we move into sex magic, a decolonized approach. And this is where we're reconciling wild, untamed beauty with skillful self-mastery. We're reconciling this paradox because usually the wild and the untamed is not skillful or masterful in our brains, but that's not true. That paradox can absolutely be reconciled. And I do that all within this sex magic class. And the inspiration for even creating this was because the rise in popularity of sex magic as this silver bullet for manifestation was yeah, really giving me the ick. I thought it was gross. And there was a very widespread big event held by an extremely popular transformational platform. That's what I'll name it, a transformational platform. And the people who were holding the mic, I had listened to some of their perspectives around sex magic, and I said, wow, there's a lot of shadow in this. There's a lot of collective shadow in this. And this is not a relief for anyone. And this is going to end up creating harm. This is going to loop back around and not be fun for people. So I put this together because I wanted to provide an alternative to that mainstream perspective and allow you to find your own voice in this and offer empowerment around that. So we are decolonizing, we are deconstructing the modern narrative of sex magic and providing an alternative here. And there are some great conversations within this class also. So very proud of it. So the first two modules are really paradigm shifting. They are asking you to critically analyze and look at your preconceived notions, your judgments, your biases, the wires that have programmed in you, probably without even realizing they've been programmed in you, and noticing and not just saying, okay, we're going to deconstruct, there's going to be an alternative for you there. And it's not going to probably look or feel like anything you've ever heard, right? The second two are where now the rubber meets the road. So once you are looking at things through a different lens, you can begin to practice out in the world from a very different place. I like to say we are not sitting in our caves quietly meditating for, day and night, over and over again. We are out in the world. We are doing things. We are creating. We are in connection with people. How do you continue to do that while remaining in your empowered sovereignty? And that's what this class starts to do, intuitive vetting and boundaries that nourish you. Because what I'm noticing in the era of Instagram mental health is there's a lot of removing yourself from connection as opposed to learning how to stay in your sovereignty and in connection. It feels like there's this either or. I can be in connection or I can remain empowered and sovereign. And I'm here to say it's not an either or, it's an and. But you haven't been taught the skills or the capacities, build the capacities in order to actually hold both of those at the same time. So that's what this class is really digging into. And one of the things I do here is show you ways to not weaponize these terms. This is the trend that I really want to put a kibosh on is in the moment of Instagram mental health, in the moment of like everyone's coming out here to heal their shit, people end up weaponizing these terms without even realizing it. They weaponize boundaries, they weaponize attunement, they weaponize embodiment, they weaponize so much, and they are not clear that they're even doing it. So this is a little bit of holding up a mirror where maybe you were operating from a place of judging, shaming, blaming, harming without even realizing it. Okay. So, in your sovereignty, while remaining in connection, yes, this is a really important skill, particularly when shit gets crunchy, particularly when shit gets hard. And so this last class, I think, is actually one of the most revolutionary, is Restorative Repair and Alchemical Approach. And we're reconciling the moment where shatter meets salvation. Because I don't believe that conflict is inherently the signal to get the fuck out of a relationship. There are plenty of reasons why something might not be for you, and you will manage your proximity to people, situations, places, etc. Right? That's all part of your discernment, which we cover in intuitive vetting and boundaries that nourish you. But when you are in connection and you move into a crunchy time, harm was done, pain is felt, things are messy. What do you do? What do you do? And I made this class because I want to provide an alternative to cancel culture. I want to invite for communities to actually be communities. Because what I'm seeing a lot of is people in communities, the moment something crunchy happens, all of that love and light, all of that kumbaya goes right out the window, right? I have this phrase, people are like tea bags. You really don't know how they taste until they're in hot water. How do you taste when you're in hot water? It doesn't mean you don't feel the pain. It doesn't mean you don't process the rage. It does not mean you don't sit with the grief. It does not mean, right? I am a shepherdess in the underworld. We go to those places. We are not afraid of touching in to the death, to the dark. All of it is ecstatic in its own beautiful way. But learning how to be in those spaces, those moments with people, it shifts how conflict gets done on a global level. Because if we can't come and be moving from love and honoring the shatter that leads to salvation in the places where we really say we give a shit, then how are we supposed to do that with people who are all the way across the world? It starts here. So part one of this is really talking about like, how did we get here? What program did we learn as kids that made us think punitive justice was going to do any good? And what parts of societal norms compounded that belief? We got a lot of deconstructing to do, and part one does a lot of that. And then part two is going to offer a 9-step framework to navigating these conversations. Like, how do you actually be in it? And everyone says a lot of things of like, communication is key. I'm like, yeah, do you know how to do that? Here's a framework for you, right? It's a 9-step repair process on how to deepen intimacy through conflict, because that is possible. We just have not been taught those skills yet. I also leave you with 3 keys on how to set up your relational containers wiser. And when you go into each of these modules, depending, regardless of which one you're in, the themes are the same. So there's a quote from a holy freak, which is someone who has gone through this 4-part masterclass series. I consider these deep blessings into the space. A little blurb about what you're going to learn, and then the video itself. Okay. A note on pricing. I believe that dynamic pricing and energy exchange in integrity from a very rooted place is important. And that's the kind of world that I want to see. And so that's how I have designed this. So you will notice at the checkout that it is pay what you want. The exploration in your own discernment, it starts now. Feel into it. And the invitation is, what am I feeling into? Feel into what feels both generous and easeful for you at this time. Both generous and easeful for you. I appreciate you being on this journey, choosing to be brave, because shifting how we relate in these terrains of sex, intimacy, and relating, it's hard. It touches on some of our most vulnerable, tender, human, messy places, and choosing to cultivate skill around how to do this better means, on some level, you want to see true peace in the world. Not fake peace, not peace where nothing hard ever happens, but the kind of peace that when things do come up, we know how to navigate it. We know how to walk through the world with authenticity and a level of unfuckwithability and sanity and grace. So thank you for being here. And if you're curious about what is in the tools section, you can check out that other video. Much love to you all. Bachi. Mwah.